All right, I will now call to order the meeting of the Regional Planning Commission. It is Wednesday, November 13th, and we are at Marvin Piccolo Elementary School in the multi-purpose room. Can I start with item 1, roll call?
Yes. Harris Armstrong.
Here.
Dan Lasareski.
Here.
Michael Flick. Here. Marilyn Kramer. Here. Carl Nieberlein.
Here.
Rob Pierce.
Here.
Shelley Reed. Here. Carrie Rohrmeyer. Here. Alex Dalta. Absent. And that's it.
Great, we have a quorum. I'll close item 1 and move to item 2, salute to the flag. I'll go ahead and lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will close item 2 and move to item 3, approval of the agenda. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We will close item 3 and move to item 4, public comment.
We have done.
Okay. Is there anyone in chambers wishing to speak under public comment? Seeing none, we'll close item 4 and move to item 5, approval of minutes for our meeting held September 26th, 2004. September 26, 2024.
Mr. Chair, I so move to approve the minutes of the meeting on September 26, 2024.
Thank you. Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We will close item 5 and move to item 6, business of the day. Item 6A, presentation and discussion regarding the public infrastructure plan document and dashboard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's Jeremy Smith for the record. Item 6A is exactly that. It's a presentation and discussion of our public infrastructure plan. We've got a presentation that we're bringing up now on the screen and sharing to Zoom. I think we're good to go there, and I have the clicker. So I'm going to start us out. So we know it's been a long road to get here, but we made it. We have a public infrastructure plan and dashboard online. Let's go through what all that means. Try it. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right, so if you guys, I'm sure you remember because we've used this slide about 15 times now, but in 2019, we did a major overhaul of the regional plan. We started fresh. And so we decided that 5 years later, it's probably a good idea not to do that again. So we didn't need a major overhaul, but of course we needed some targeted changes. And we identified those as sort of work program for the agency back in 2019. And that was really to enhance our ability to deal with natural resources through a natural resources plan, and also to elevate our ability to talk about public infrastructure in those domains that state law gives us purview, and that is calling for this public infrastructure plan. So we've taken you through the natural resource plan several times, and tonight we're going to go through the public infrastructure plan. And remember, this is sort of the direction we're trying to go. We really are trying to create foundational documents that are really vetted with data and information to support the policies and the processes that we undertake in the regional plan. And so now we have these 2 pillars. We're establishing them right now in this process. The natural resource pillar, anything that we're doing as an agency to fulfill that state mandate or to help the jurisdictions or whatever it would be that's around natural resources, we're going to start here and we're going to make sure that it fits into that scheme in some way, shape, or form, or maybe it's already in there. It becomes the umbrella project through which we approach a natural resource work at the agency. Likewise, we have the public infrastructure plan. It's going to serve the same role in terms of infrastructure. And our goal, if everyone agrees, is to move forward after the adoption in December and to start on that 3rd pillar, which is all about our GIS work to predict population and housing needs, and really talk about, pull back the curtain on all of that work and make it very transparent. So, and why do we want to do this? Well, obviously we want to make sure that we are giving you, the decision makers, the best information possible to make your decision, and the most robust that's based in accurate data and information. So, and it also helps us to do that when we're doing our master plan amendment reviews, looking at facilities plan conformance review, projects of regional significance, or changes to the regional plan itself. So really in service of doing the best job we can to meet our mandate in state law. And just generally to do a good job. helping to plan and manage growth in the region. So who are we working with? We've been working with all of these folks, all of these jurisdictions and organizations and tons of folks from each one. And we just really wanted to put this up here to say a big thank you to all of the help we've gotten along the way on this public infrastructure plan. This is very much us bringing together really detailed and great information done by all these entities and agencies and the staff, bringing it to the 30,000-foot view where it all kind of organizing it comes together. But really, we're not replacing a darn thing. It's just to sort of highlight and guide folks to all the great work that is happening in the region and kind of bring it all together. So really thank you again to all of these entities that have spent a bunch of time to get this thing established. And huge thanks to TMRPA staff who've been working tirelessly, right? Setting up remote dioceses as necessary, but also want to give a big shout out to HEC, Hansford Economic Consulting, Catherine Hansford, who's here today, and Mark Forey, who works with her, who were instrumental in making this public infrastructure plan possible for us. Really, I think it's been difficult because it's really probably not our bailiwick, if you will, in terms of the staff. We're not economists, but we've learned a ton along the way, and it was really nice to have Catherine's help. And Catherine, maybe if you don't mind, if you want to just say a few words, we got this microphone here, and you could take us in.
Thank you. Is that working? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It doesn't feel like it's really working. Good evening. My name's Catherine Hansford, and as Jeremy's already mentioned, is that better?
That's better, yeah.
As Jeremy's already mentioned, we were brought in to help out just a little bit with talking to different entities and jurisdictions to find out what kind of data was available to help put together this public infrastructure plan. And as a part of the scope of work, we were trying to find some good case studies of how we could present this information. And there's really not much out there. So there's not many other places that are doing regional planning work like this. We did find 3 case studies. 2 of them were in the US and 1 was actually in Australia. And we presented that to the working group, and we got some really great feedback from that. Just a few good takeaways we learned from that was to have some really visually, easily digestible presentation of the facts, have graphics depicting statistics, giving its audience a solid understanding of the infrastructure, conditions, and level of service in the region. We also found, sorry for my notes here. We also found that it would be good to keep the information at a high level and to really focus on the importance of the public infrastructure plan to foster regional dialogue, to maintain infrastructure and provide coordinated planning for a resilient community and to serve new growth. In talking to each of the affected entities and jurisdictions, one of the things that we found we could use was existing financial data and statistics that are contained within audits of each of the entities. And so we really helped to put that kind of information together to show the order of magnitude of infrastructure spending needed by the domain, and to also be able to graphically illustrate the amount of work that's being done throughout the region in terms of infrastructure. So, thanks, Jeremy.
Excellent. Well, once again, thanks, Catherine, and it's been fantastic. This is Jeremy Smith for the record. Thank you very much. Perfect. Yeah. Really great working with Catherine and Mark. So we're going to be calling you probably next year. Okay, so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Chris Tolley, who's really been the project lead on the public infrastructure plan. And he's going to take us through a presentation that goes through the entire document and dashboard.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chris Tolley, TMRPA. I was going to stand on that side, but I think I'll stand over here. So again, big thanks to the jurisdictions and entities, to our consultant for helping this, because without everybody's participation willingly, we wouldn't be here today. So again, the public infrastructure plan is the document itself, and the dashboard that we'll look at really is organizing and summarizing our understanding of public infrastructure throughout the region. And that is in order to also carry out our mandate set by state law, and that is 24-278. We'll look at some slides about that stuff very briefly, but you guys have also seen that information throughout this process. And one of the, I think the under, I don't know the best way to describe it, but something that's been in my head through this entire process is that this is really to elevate the discussion between the connection between public infrastructure and land use. As a land use planner, it isn't something that you necessarily automatically think of when you're going through your processes. It's normally go talk to the engineers, they have that knowledge. But this effort really is about bringing those two sides closer together, not to repeat or duplicate work or to do their work, but really to understand for us land use planners and for the engineers, really the true connection between the two realms, if you will. And the website for this is cmrpa.org 2024 RPU-RPU. We'll see that, see the information that's contained on there with regard to the public infrastructure as we go through this. So again, 24-278, this sets the contents of the regional plan. And we're really focusing on two sections, and that is two subsections, subsection 4 and 5, that describe or detail really what our consideration is in regards to public facilities and services. And those we consider the 5 domains, starting with potable or potable water, schools, stormwater and flood control, transportation, and wastewater. And we're looking at basically the available and adequacy of each of these particular realms, and that could be on the conveyance side, so going from a home to, let's say, a wastewater treatment plant, or also water, going from a treatment plant to your home. That kind of relationship for each of them, more or less. And then PIP goals. We started out with some draft goals and refined them through the process, and there have been some revisions in the actual plan, but they have stayed largely the same, and that is to develop the public infrastructure plan. And the reason for that goal is that satisfied what our 2019 regional plan called for in terms of creating the public infrastructure plan. So that was a clear first goal for us. And then goal 2, and this is something, we've been working really on these things since 2020, but the next logical progression in thinking about what we're doing is collecting, combining, and reporting available public infrastructure and capital improvement plan data. And that is really both a spending, like CIP spending summaries that are put out by the jurisdictions and entities, as well as a spatial component, the actual mapping of this information, bringing all that together in one house under, I guess it's everybody's umbrella, but at our data warehouse, as we've been referred to. So that would, and the point of bringing all of it together is that it doesn't end at a jurisdiction or entity's boundary. We have everything inclusive of the region. And then goal 3, pretty logical flow through this, but utilize the data and information about public infrastructure. So that really is taking what we've got and then deploying it through our processes and products. So what we arrived at as the primary products, I guess these would be the public-facing products, would be the public infrastructure, the written document, and that is a summary of the 5 domains. Again, we are living at the regional level, and therefore we are reflecting the information at a regional level. We're not reproducing stuff that is in, say, the regional water management plan or in the regional transportation plan. We are taking the salient points from those and bringing them together with the other domains so that folks, like a member of the public, could come in and read it and get an understanding. And that would send them to the details. And we'll go through how that looks in the document. And then the next, and this is similar to the Truckee Meadows annual report webpage, but we've got the public infrastructure plan dashboard, which is our summary of our summary with the spending summaries, a few summaries in there. But this was a way for, the dashboard itself was a way for us to, again, provide the salient points about what we're doing with the public infrastructure plan, and then also include the spending summaries that we have created with HEC and the jurisdictions and entities that is inclusive, again, of the entire region, not by jurisdiction, but of all, under the domains such as water, which has a few players in that realm. So this, again, is showing our information a summary of the summary. And then also, as we move through the process, when I say process, over the years of implementing this work, we'll not only be able to reflect a current year spending, but also be able to look at trends over a period of time. And we don't necessarily know how that's going to necessarily look right now. But if you can imagine a 5-year chunk of time, we could look at the spending overall and then by domain over that given time frame. So we'll start with the document. And it's broken into 7 chapters plus the appendix or appendices. Chapter 1 provides an introduction to us, who we are, TMRPA, and a summary of the effort. This is stylized similar to the Natural Resources Plan. And chapter 2, we get into the domains. So chapters 2 through 6, and we're looking through these alphabetically as well, just in case you were wondering, the domains alphabetically. But we get into providing our summary of water. And we address, again, from a regional perspective, and we provide a guidepost to the actual details. And I think this is one of the key things to include in here is to include the organizations, a link to their webpage, and then the selected plans and resources. And this is, as we move through time, this list could be expanded as there are changes to the organizations that are involved with it, as well as the plans and resources. If we learn that we missed something, we can obviously include that. But you can imagine over time, as we implement this, that we'll be learning more components that could possibly be added to this. And then chapter 7, I think it's 2 pages in the document, but is a conclusion and really provides, not on this page, but on the next one, the implications as we move forward, as well as summarizing the key findings from the effort. And then moving into the appendices, we've got 3 sections to this, A, B, and C. B, what we see here is the summary for regional spending. And this is looking at our base year, as we'll get into that. But this is fiscal year in 2023 or FY 22-23. But you can imagine, as I introduced before, we have 1 year, but as we move through this on a year-by-year implementation, we'll be able to show the trends of spending throughout the region. As well as case studies would be Appendix A, and the domain funding sources would be Appendix C. All cool stuff. So then to sum up the document itself, again, this is reflect a regional perspective for the 5 domains. Version 2 is out now on the website. We're still accepting comments before or through November 22nd, and those will get rolled into the final plan considered by the RPC and its path to adoption at the Regional Planning Governing Board. And then we will be updating this document on an annual basis, and that is certainly the case for the spending summaries and then any information that needs to get changed in the actual written document itself. And then continue to work on improving the PIP document in the coming years, as I've been saying, to improve or increase its relevancy for all of us in the region. Moving on to the dashboard. So again, this is highlighting the PIP effort and the key components of it, such as the 5 domains we can see at the top, and this is basically how the first part of it flows in the actual website. And then showing the classification of investments, and those we've broken into reinvesting, so we're investing in ourselves or reinvesting in ourselves, and then growth, new things added to the region or new capacity. Those are the 2 basic big bins that we have established through the process. So we've got a domain-wide spending summary, and that is inclusive again of the 5 domains, not domain-wide, but region-wide spending summary. And then it is, as you scroll through the website, it also shows each of the 5 domains in a similar flow, showing the overall spending. And I'll get into some of these details as well as an example I thought of today, or kind of an explanation. But here we have, right there, showing the spending looking backwards. And today I thought of a good way to describe this. But anyways, this left portion is, again, looking back to fiscal year 22-23, and then the right is looking forward to the CIP process over a period of 5 years. And this is, again, thinking of an explanation, or not an explanation, but a way to think about it. And what made sense to me is to think about it like a growing season. a tree produces leaves. The leaves capture the sunlight, photosynthesis happens, tree grows, and then the leaves come off at the end of the year. So basically, when we're looking at the CIP process, all that work that is happening through the year, the tree is doing in this example, the tree is doing all this work. And then the data points that we get at the end of the year are basically equivalent to the leaves coming off the tree. It's not the best example, but it kind of made sense to think about it like that. So we can look backwards and see what was produced. And that helps us to understand what was built by each of the providers on the left in this right here, and then on the right. And the providers would be like a TAMWA, a jurisdiction, or an entity. TAMWA being an entity, as well as a jurisdiction. And then on the right is the developer dedicated projects. So items that were completed and then dedicated to the jurisdiction or entity for ongoing maintenance. And the reason why we don't see that when we look forward, this particular breakdown, is because looking forward, we're seeing a projection just of the public entities and what they do. We don't have the developer portion because it really hasn't happened, hasn't dedicated, even though we learned from various engineers that that would be something worthwhile to detail at some point in time, but this is what we have. So that was my kooky example. Hopefully, helpful, help me. Yeah, if you can click on the link, hopefully it goes, and we'll scroll through. So again, this is stylized much like our Truckee Meadows annual report, very interactive graphics, if we get there. There we go. Oh, this shows us how to get there too. Yeah. To the regional plan update. So yes. So this is how we get to the particular website where the regional planning documents for the 2024 update are contained. See, I think we can just scroll through this slowly. So again, we have the 5 domains. And then the next section talks about reinvestment versus growth and what those are. And when we embarked on this process, we really only thought we were going to be talking about growth projects, but we learned pretty quickly that in order to see the full picture, we would need to see the growth side and in reinvestment and characterize both of them.
This is Jeremy Smith for the record. We just were asking the folks on Zoom right now, are you able to see the dashboard loading here? We're not sure if we...
We're seeing an unexpected error.
Ah, good. Okay. Well, we'll stop the share and we'll redo this. I think we should try to open it in Chrome, Carla. I think Internet Explorer, we're going to have to do a little work to make sure it works correctly in there. We're going to get it reshared for you. Thank you. This is Jeremy again for the record. Always nice to have the live demo. It looks much better. Okay, members on Zoom, this is Jeremy again for the record. Are you seeing the draft public infrastructure plan dashboard now?
Yep.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, so the second section on here is again talking about reinvestment and growth. And as I was introducing, we had originally intended on bringing in the data regarding growth, but through meeting with the jurisdictions and entities, it became pretty clear pretty quickly that in order to see the full picture, we would need to characterize and report growth and reinvestment. And you can keep on scrolling. So then we have the overall summary. And then below that, we get into each of the domains. And as part of what we've included in here, if you want to stop there, we also have some statistics that are reflected on the annual comprehensive financial reports produced by the jurisdictions and entities. And this, I guess, felt like an easy thing for us to include here that is also an important thing for us to track over time. And what we are also going to be doing to the dashboard is to provide some contextual pieces about why this stuff matters. I think that's what we arrived at in working with the jurisdiction and entity staff. So you'll see this something fairly similar on each of them. I don't remember exactly all the data points that we've pulled in aside from our regional spending summaries. We can keep scrolling through. So yeah, we go alphabetically through each of them, along with statistics. And you can see the interactive nature of these, identifying, again, looking backwards and forwards through either the annual comprehensive financial report, which helps us to look backwards, and then the capital improvement plan, which is the 5-year projection. Cool. I guess we'll shift back to the PowerPoint. And then just summing up, again, the dashboard will be updated annually. Our initial data year for this was the fiscal year 2022-23. And that information, so the next fiscal year information basically is rolling out at this point in time too. So that kind of jives with my example before about the tree leaves coming off. The information comes out around this point in time. So, and then also, as I've introduced, show current spending and then build historical perspectives and trends. I think that to me is pretty exciting and another value add for the region to be able to see how we're spending differently holistically and then looking at each of the domains. And then show public infrastructure statistics and again, the website, which we just looked at. So the third component of the products, then this is more staff of jurisdiction and entity facing for a portion of it. But this is collecting all the data, and this is pipes, roads, all the infrastructure that's in the ground, collecting that from each of the jurisdictions and entities and putting it into a single space, single hosting, a single data area. That's a good description. But you can see the GIS example here on the right. Again, the value here from us sitting at the regional level is that we're providing or we're pulling in all the information regardless of the boundary. And this is, we're looking to update that annually or as is available to us. Again, regional, not limited to a jurisdiction or entity's boundaries. And then this is utilized by us for the consensus forecast as well as spatial modeling and other products. And then making this information available to jurisdiction and or entity staff, and that would be a password protected. So they can, so we have basically one set of data that we all can look at when we're having discussions about the connection between land use and public infrastructure, facilitating collaboration amongst our regional partners. And this breaks down for us, or these are going to be parts of a whole, but when we look at this example on the screen, we see the major roadways. And as you look in the Cold Springs area, the light, I guess that's pink or red, color versus the dark color in the core of the region, you can see the number of interactions in terms of roadways. More interactions means a red color, and then less interactions means less. So we take one layer roads, and we take another layer, sewer. You can see, again, looking at the Cold Springs example, the Cold Springs wastewater treatment plant, and then the facility and facilities throughout the region. So what we're seeing here is, I think, 10 inches sewer lines, 10 inches or greater. So we take those first two maps and then a third map, and this will be showing water line information. Don't know what the size on 10 inches or greater. So this is trunk level, not necessarily something that is serving an individual house, but would provide service to an area. And putting all that information together. And this is, all these maps that we just looked at are the public-facing representation of the data, so that we are not putting out sensitive information with regards to well locations, etc. But this is showing a summary either individually for a domain or holistically that is then again used by us for the Washington County Consensus Forecast, spatial modeling, and then available to members of the public to see, have a heat map of what things look like either holistically or for each of the different domains.
Chris, can I interrupt? This is Jeremy. Just quickly, we're going to work on that map. We talked about it today. Typically, those heat maps go the other direction, where blue is cool and red is hot. And this is honestly what Chris just showed, those three maps. This is a composite, and it's sort of working to replace our previous infrastructure proximity map that we had utilized during the 2019 plan. But the Fruity Loops look here, we're gonna work on that and make it a little clearer and less glaring. So FYI.
Yeah, and that the infrastructure map in the current regional plan, the 2019 regional plan, was based off of data collected from 2013-ish, 2017. And now we are going to be getting a new set of this data again every year so that we can update either individually or holistically what this looks like. So then to bring us back to, in particular, this is really about all the components, but the public infrastructure plan, the information that we've compiled into the document, the dashboard, the staff viewer, will help support our master plan, conformance review process, facility plan, projects of regional significance. So again, we're looking through the planning process, the planning documents, that those are long range, 20-year or approximately documents, looking out to the future, and then using that information also for the big projects, project of regional significance, and then as well as regional plan amendments, such as a regional land designation amendment. And then to sum up everything, again, using, oh, here we go. So now we've turned on the faucet and using what this is basically saying is that we're using the information in our process, and this was the third goal, utilize the information. So we make the public infrastructure plan data that we have available through the initial review stage of cases. We can understand as we move forward, particularly the public infrastructure investments that are occurring throughout the region and how that might influence a decision-making process. Proximity of public infrastructure, so when a proposal comes forward, let's say to do a regional land designation amendment in an area, we can quickly understand what's there and what is needed to serve at a high level. Again, highlighting the connection between land use and public infrastructure decision-making. The supports are, again, spatial modeling, the Washoe County Consensus Forecast, and then we see the benefits to the jurisdictions, as we've heard, that we have all the data, and that staff members at the jurisdictions or entities, if we're asked a question about what's the region doing, can point to this location and say, hey, this information is available, go take a look at it. And then highlight jurisdiction and entity projects. And this was a particular thing called out by the Truckee River Flood Management Authority, that we could help get the word out on what they're doing in terms of looking at the overall spending and as that is implemented over a period of time. And then the PIP document and dashboard, again, updated on an annual basis. In particular, that will be the case for the dashboard. Again, building our historical data or the trends that are happening, and then increase relevance of the data, and finally, collaborate. Working with everybody, I think this is one of the most beneficial things, is to get everybody in the room planners, engineers, and start talking through this, looking at the figures, as well as the financial side. Having meetings with them, learning about all this information from a planner's perspective, I think has been invaluable for me, and hopefully that trickles out throughout the region. And with that, December 2024, the RPGB meeting again on December 12th is when we'll be looking at the finalized proposed documents to be considered for adoption. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, thanks so much. We'll bring it back. Yeah, you read my mind. We're going to bring it back to the commission in case there are questions or comments. Any of the commissioners have questions or comments at this time? Anyone on Zoom? All right, hearing. Okay, hearing none. I actually don't think there's an action item for this unless there's comments, right?
This is Jeremy Smith, the record. I believe we had a motion to accept. It's pretty much all it would be, but we would ask for public comment, although we probably won't get any, but we should ask for it.
Do we have anyone in chambers wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment, and I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I present a motion to accept the presentation. That's what we're doing? Is that it?
I think accept the presentation and the report, the public infrastructure plan itself. Yeah.
Pardon me, Jessica Prenti, legal counsel for the record. I would recommend a motion to accept the presentation and approve the infrastructure plan as presented.
Then I will make a motion to accept the presentation and approve the infrastructure plan.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much for all your hard work. We will close item 6A and move to item 6B. This is a mouthful. Public hearing to receive testimony at a location within the unincorporated area of Washoe County concerning approval of the draft of the comprehensive 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan and a recommendation of adoption to the Regional Planning Governance Board as required by NRS 278.0272.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Jeremy Smith, the record. We're excited to kind of take you through a little recap here of what we're looking to do for the entire update process and get some public testimony if it's here. And we're going to have Nate Kusha take us through this right now.
All right. Good evening, commissioners. Nate Kusha for the record.
Nate Kusha, for the record, before you start, Jeremy Smith for the record. Just want to make sure that folks on Zoom, can you see the slide? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right. Again, Nate Kusha for the record. Good evening. We're going to walk through where we're at with this 2024 regional plan update. And you guys have hopefully seen all of this before, but we'll go through so you guys know where we're at in kind of these final meetings here. So I'm sure you recognize this slide, but as mentioned previously, the last update in 2019 was a big overhaul of our regional plan. We don't need to do that this time. We decided to focus on these two kind of sections. That's the natural resources and the public infrastructure. As you just saw, we went through the public infrastructure plan, so it'll be very light in this presentation. And we really tried to target really kind of very targeted policy additions, because in the 2019 update, we recognized that we really needed to reduce the number of policies we have in the plan because it was overwhelming. So we didn't want to go back and add a bunch more this time. We wanted to keep it very minute. So again, here's our columns of regional planning, the pillars. We have kind of the three sections. Again, we focused on the natural resources and public infrastructure for this update. And going forward after adoption, hopefully, of this plan, we'll work towards that third pillar of the population and housing. Again, you've seen all this just recently, so I'm not going to focus on it, but it helps us do all of our day-to-day work. And with that, we'll jump into the NR plan. So again, this is a very light touch, as we've been through this many times on the Natural Resources Plan, but we have come to kind of our version 3, and what we're assuming is our final version of the Natural Resources Plan. That is up on that Regional Plan Update website that we just showed you guys, and you can go check it out. We'll take any final comments through, our last RPC meeting on the 2nd. If there's anything pressing needs to be added or changed, we can still do that. Hopefully there's not. We've been through many iterations of this one already. So that, we have our data portal, as hopefully all of you know too. And this has already been useful. We've had numerous people reach out to us already through email or calling, asking about this or where they can find information or what this is all about. So we've directed people here to get information already. It's been incredibly useful. We added all of the Truckee River Information Gateway data into our portal as well. So the old TRIG website has been kind of decommissioned, and we're hosting that all on this portal now as well. So there's a lot of information up there, and that is on our website at the NR plan there. So with that, we come to really the policy implications from that Natural Resources Plan. We came to kind of 4 additions to be added to the 2024 regional plan from this effort. And we'll walk through those quickly here, but again, hope you've seen these all. But we have the source water protection and regional trails policies, we have a tribal coordination policy, and then our natural resource consideration areas, or NRCA. So with that, just taking a look at what these policies are, our source water protection policy is really just asking the jurisdictional master plans and the affected entity facility plans to recognize the source water protection plan, which you can see there. That's a long name, I'm not going to read the whole thing. But there it is, to recognize that and really to request comment from the appropriate entity during the development review process when a spatial interaction is identified. So we'll look at that kind of in more detail coming up with our NRCA. That's how we'll kind of know if there's a spatial interaction. But getting comments from the entity, usually TUMWA, on if there's an interaction with the source water or a critical source water protection area. And that plan is available at WashoeCountyCleanWater.org. Similarly, our regional trails plan is kind of the same format here, where we're asking the jurisdictions and entities to recognize the Truckee Meadows Trails Plan and Report. And that is on the Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation website. You can see there. And it's the same thing, request comment from the appropriate entity during the development review process if we see an interaction with a regional trail or a potential trail, things of that nature. Moving on to our tribal coordination policy. So through the NR plan process and through our other various casework, we really recognize the need to engage the tribes on a more regular basis. So we really want to acknowledge their connection to the earth and their perspective on during the development review process. And so we have set up a policy to have regular meetings with tribal planners and tribal stakeholders, and that will be a Team RPA specific thing, and we'll be having regular meetings with them, as well as to identify regional conformance cases that may be relevant to the tribes, and we will engage the tribes early on in the process. And yet again, that'll be kind of on Team RPA staff. So if we get a development review memo from a jurisdiction, that will trigger a regional review. We do our IRM, or our initial review memo, which is already in place, and we will take a look at those and we'll say, hey, this is close to tribal lands. And so we will, in our IRM process, reach out to the tribes, get their comments and feedbacks, include that in our memo to the jurisdictions for their review during their development review process. Additionally, we'll be making all of our initial review memos available on our website. So any member of the public, tribes, anybody who wants to check it out can go look at all of our IRMs, and that will happen after we get this adopted, but we're working on that. Finally, this is kind of the bigger one, our natural resource considerations areas. So this really, the idea for this really came from kind of 2 different areas. One is that we have a mandate in state law to have a map in the regional plan that shows the areas best suited for development. That's required by NRS and our statutes for the requirements of the regional plan. And so we're taking our hope anyways, to have this natural resource considerations areas map as well as our development constraints areas map. And the 2 combined will kind of show us where it's not best for development. So kind of taking the flip of that requirement. Additionally, we recognize that we have our DCA, our development constraints areas, and that's kind of a hard line of if you are in DCA, can't really do development. There's a few exceptions, but generally not allowed. right? But we do recognize that outside of that area, it doesn't mean we don't care about natural resources at all. There's still things to consider. So this is kind of getting us a map of what are those considerations outside of that area and how should we approach looking at those. So we have a map and we'll utilize a spatial check of all the data layers in the NRCA, which we'll look at in just a second. And for every case that comes to regional planning, and we'll include a report of spatial interactions during, again, our IRM submission. So if we receive a case, we'll run it, put it in that map, see all the spatial interactions, what kind of natural resource things is this interacting with, and we can provide a readout as well as some context about that in our initial review memo to the jurisdictions. So that's kind of the meat of it, but this tool will also be available for anybody on our website. So we see it as a tool available for the planners at the local jurisdictions and entities as well. If they have a case, maybe it's not coming to regional, maybe it is, they can look at it, put the parcel or parcels in the map and see what kind of natural resource interactions are going to be on that site. So here are the spatial layers that we've included in the natural resource consideration areas. We have our slopes 15 to 30%, wildfire, wildlife habitat and corridors, endangered threatened species, again, that critical source water protection areas, the regional trails, floodplain, and agricultural lands. So these are areas that we have identified that kind of collectively through our working group, the staff at the jurisdictions and entities, we came to this list as it would be helpful and are important things to consider through the development review process, and things that we also have reliable data for from a reliable source that's consistently updated. So here's kind of what that looks like. So this is going to be the kind of paper map that's included in the plan that you're seeing here. This only includes the 4 layers that you see right here. So again, there was a list of about 8 layers, but not all of them are on here, because if we put them all on here, it's just going to look like a big unreadable blob. So this is just kind of the paper map, but all of our data information is hosted on our website. And so you can click through any of the layers in that NRCA when you go to the online map viewer of this information. So as you can see, there's kind of, here we have these 4 layers. So if you're like somewhere down here, you're interacting with like 3 or 4 of the layers here. And so there's a lot of interactions there, something to note. So again, that's the natural resources plan. That's the implications for the regional plan. We just went through the public infrastructure plan. I'll touch on it briefly, but you guys just heard it. So again, this is just to organize and summarize our understanding of the public infrastructure and facilities. We have an NRS mandate, and it's really enhancing our regional coordination and informing our decision making. We have our products, which is the plan itself, which is a summary of things, and then also our dashboard, which you just saw, but that really is kind of the visual context and provides the quick nitty-gritty of that information. And then beyond those 2 things that are feeding kind of the information in the 2024 update to the plan, we have a few other minor policy updates. So as I just mentioned, all of our NRCA layers are on our online map viewer. And they're not all going to be on the paper map in the paper copy of the plan. But so we are adding a policy that is really recognizing that Team RPA uses our digital data and maps in our casework. So it's clear that, you know, the things you see on the paper might not be the most up to date, but everything on our website and on our kind of data clearinghouse, that's the stuff that we're using that's going to be the most current information. We'll also be updating our policies PF3 and NR1. Currently, those policies are just about creating the public infrastructure plan and creating the natural resource plan. We'll be updating those to reflect that they have been created, and we'll be maintaining those going forward. We have some miscellaneous corrections in the plan. That's things like typos, language corrections, etc. Nothing major there. And then finally, we have worked with the City of Reno on kind of a sphere of influence rollback on public land. So that's what this map here is. Anywhere you see that's kind of this pinkish orange hue, that are areas that have been identified through working with the City of Reno planning staff and rolling those out of the sphere of influence, because those are areas that are currently on public lands and that are not currently identified in the disposal boundary of the proposed public lands bill. So really there's no reason to have them in the sphere of influence if they're never going to be built or planned to be built. So we're rolling those out, and we've been working on that for a while as well, similar to what we did in the last 2019 update of the plan. We rolled back some sphere of influence areas with the City of Sparks. Now we're doing it same thing with the City of Reno. So with that, This is our update webpage. This has the most current versions of all of our documents. So we have the most current version of the Natural Resources Plan, Public Infrastructure Plan, as well as the red line version of the regional plan showing what we're taking out and what we're adding, or hoping to anyways, post-adoption, for the 2024 regional plan. So here we are scheduling. We're here already, November 13th, Marvin Piccolo School. That's us. Next week, we have Monday at the RTC Great Room, and that will satisfy the requirement for being in the city of Reno. Tonight's Washoe County, unincorporated Washoe County. And then finally on December 2nd, we'll bring the same item to the Sparks Council chambers, and hopefully you guys will recommend approval of this and recommend that the board adopt the new regional plan. So that's where we're at. December 12th is what we're shooting for, the Regional Planning Governing Board adoption 2024 regional plan. That's the goal. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Bring it back.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
We'll just open it up quickly for public comment. Do we have anyone in the chambers wishing to speak on this item?
In fact, maybe Jeremy Smith, if we're going to ask legal counsel just to verify, should we open a public hearing to receive testimony? I believe that would be the...
Yes, I believe that the chair did that at the beginning of the item.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So we're good.
Yeah, it's a public hearing by default. So.
Great. So
But
we're,
if anyone wishes to provide testimony in support or opposition to what's been presented today, now would be an
now's the
opportunity.
time. Thank you.
All right, seeing none, I'll just double check. Is there anyone watching via Zoom that may have comments, testimony, things like that? Okay, we'll close public comment and we'll bring it back to the commission for any questions or comments.
This is Rob for the record. I'm trying to follow that online also because there was a bar at the bottom and I couldn't read everything, but I'm not finding all those slides online. I'm sorry, maybe it's just me, but I can't find that whole presentation under the plan that he's was talking about.
Hey, this is Jeremy Smith for the record. The slides are not currently online. We're just presenting them here tonight, but we'll be sure to put them online following this meeting so that you can go through it, Rob, and we'll alert everyone where those can be found.
We do have the redlined regional plan up on the website, and if you scroll through that, that will have all proposed changes that we are proposing for the new regional plan. So that's any policy additions or changes, as well as language changes and mapping changes as well.
Rob, this is Jeremy for the record. You're muted.
Sorry, Rob, you're still muted. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Yes.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the natural resources plan online and that's where I couldn't follow him. So if it's not there, then that makes sense.
Great. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Jeremy Smith again for the record. For this one, we did not have a motion because I believe it was really the purpose, as I understand it, is to receive public testimony about the plan. But of course, we should get the legal take from our legal counsel.
Yeah, I thought there was like an approval by us for what's been presented, but if not, that's fine. We can close the item.
Jessica Penny for the record. If you would bear with me for one moment, please, while I pull up the statute.
Oh, I see.
Thank you for your patience. Jessica Prunty for the record. At the third meeting is when you will actually recommend adoption to the governing board. However, if we want to keep a clear record, we could entertain a motion to accept the testimony or the presentation of the plan as it is and as presented, essentially, similar to the prior motion, to accept the presentation of the natural resource plan, the public infrastructure plan, and the updates of the redlined 2024, anticipated 2024 plan, and to proceed forward to the next hearing, which is scheduled for Monday, the 18th, I believe. And I think you could just say so moved, as suggested by legal counsel.
Mr. Chair, so moved by legal counsel.
I second that.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We will close item 6 and move to item 7. Reports, members and directors' reports.
Mr. Chair, this is Jeremy Smith for the record. I just have a brief report I'd like to give. First off, I'd like to announce that one of our partner organizations, Truckee Meadows Tomorrow, it's a nonprofit that, for example, Nate right now serves on the board of directors, and I have previously, has just released a community progress report on their website, truckeemeadowstomorrow.org. And it's really a great document. It's deep in with data as well. And it's something that we work together with them on, certainly in the land use section. So we support their efforts, and it's sort of it's kind of like the nonprofit arm, if you will, of this regional process. And in fact, that agency started back early on in the history of TMRPA in collaboration with EDON. So that's really a great, they've been making a lot of progress over there and evolving that organization. Well worth checking out, truckeemeadowstomorrow.org. And then I'd just like to follow up secondly with pointing out that we do have 2 more meetings coming. We'll have the RTC Great Room meeting on November 18th, again at 6 p.m. That's over at the Terminal building. And tomorrow I'll be reaching out to send an email. I think hopefully that, Zoom participation, that hopefully will be a pretty short meeting. So we're going to do the same, just the one item, 6B, that we did today. The plan is to just do that item. And I think it would be at the chair's, discretion if we want to hear the presentation again. You might just say, no, we already heard it. But then depending on if we have some public participation that day, we may want to do it again and make sure folks have a chance to provide that testimony. But I think it's a good candidate for Zoom. And then finally, then we'll go away for Thanksgiving, and we'll come back for the December 2nd. That's also a Monday, for that last meeting where we will do that final recommendation option. And I think we wanted to try to keep it a little bit open, because we did say, hey, until November 22nd, if any of you, any folks in the audience, any public member, any of the entities or staff have any comments on any of this stuff, then we want to be responsive to that and make sure that's all boiled into the versions that we bring on December 2nd, which would be, as I've kind of referred to before, the baked versions that then we would take forward to the governing board. And I just want to thank again everybody that's been involved in getting us to this point. This last year has been pretty intense, pretty big lift to get all of these pieces together. And I just want to also point out that it's come up many times during the presentations, but these are living documents. And, we've gone from zero, not having either of these documents, to now having them and having a natural resources data portal and having an online dashboard that talks about spending. And so we're going to continue to evolve this stuff, but we really, I think, are taking a huge step forward for the region and for regional planning to bring this information to bear. And I can only imagine that we'll continue wrenching on it and making it better and better as we go forward. So with that, thank you very much for your time, and that ends my report.
Thank you. Move to item B, legal counsel's report.
Thank you. Jessica Prunty for the record. I have nothing to report. I would make a comment that at the December 2nd meeting for adoption, for the recommendation to the governing board for adoption, that has to pass by 2/3 of the entire membership. So hopefully everyone will be available and present for that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll close item 7 and move to item 8, requests for future agenda items. Do we have any? Hearing none, we'll close item 8 and move to item 9, public comment.
We
Do
have,
we-
oh, sorry,
Sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. You can go ahead.
We have none.
Okay. Anyone in the chambers wishing to speak under item 9, public comment? Seeing none, we will close item 9 and move to item 10, written correspondence. Do we have it?
No, there is none.
Great. We'll close item 10 and move to item 11, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn, second.
All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.